aren't there that there are more African-American young men? I don't know if that was...
oh, in prison than there are
in
in colleges.
Yeah.
Now, growing up with the reverse, you know, the way up from Southern days 50, 60 years ago that, you know, parents struggled. They were day workers. They were maids and butlers. They were just, you know, whatever it took to have a good job. And the way that was
and the economy has
my
changed
parents,
so much
yes.
now.
And so the necessity for an education, exactly.
Yeah. So where did you grow up?
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yeah.
Small town girl. Always say I'm a country girl from Poughkeepsie, New York. But my roots are Southern. My parents, my mother's from Charleston, South Carolina. My dad's Fayetteville, North Carolina. And they came north to Poughkeepsie, a la IBM. My dad was an electrical engineer at IBM.
Oh, and that's what made the move. But you're a very political being, so how did you get to be a political being like that?
You know,
I'm always fascinated.
I'm a chip off the old block. I used to, you know, at the age of 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, I watched my first Democratic National Convention. It was the most exciting thing. What
was it, do you remember?
No? It was 56. I'm dating myself.
Stevenson.
And, yes. And the reason why, because my parents had the TV, and that was the only thing that they would watch. So they were very political. My mother and dad formed the Poughkeepsie Voters League at a time. They're coming from the South. They're Democrats. Come to Poughkeepsie and find like all the black folks are Republicans. They don't understand this. And they said, well, we've got to have the balance. So they formed this league, registered an enormous amount of people to vote, and my dad started talking about block voting to talk about the issues of particular to blacks in Poughkeepsie. So I grew up hearing all of this stuff, and so I can't help myself.
And he ran for office.
He ran for office in '68. You remember that was the wave all across the country of first time blacks in office, and so he was the first black elected to public office on the Common Council of Poughkeepsie in 1968, I think in the Hudson Valley. But my mother had a dual career as you know, the first African American in the Poughkeepsie school system.
Is that right?
So I have to do some kind of good work.
You do have to. You have to be. What were you first in?
A little of everything. I was in high school. I was on the, you know, every class has a GO representative to the general organization. So I was that, you know. And when I went to college, my cousin wanted to be in our freshman year. She wanted to be freshman, you know, queen. And I ran for vice president of freshman class. I went to school at Howard, so they're like, oh, Poughkeepsie, New York. No. Everybody from D.C. got elected.
That's so bad. So you saw the difference with the South and the North, right? And all of a sudden you're a Northerner instead of just being a part of the thing, right?
Exactly.
And that's what happens when you're a New Yorker, right?
That's it. Oh, forever.
Absolutely.
Forever.
In Manhattan. So you've run for public office.
I have. I spent. Honestly, you know, it was my dream to one day go to Congress, because I thought that was the best place to do great work. I grew up in a corporate environment. Seagram, I rose to be director of equal employment opportunity during the 80s, and I saw a dismantling of affirmative action from all over the country. You know, minorities, women, and all of that. And I said, the way you put teeth into, you know, into the problems is to become elected. So I started pursuit. I haven't gotten there. I have not been elected. And now it's like, oh, well, maybe I can do good work elsewhere. But I ran for city council and assembly.
It's hard with that Harlem establishment.
It is brutal. It is brutal.
There's so many people waiting and so many people staying.
Well, see, you know, having grown up in Seagram, where you just do hard work, and I started out in a manufacturing plant, first woman in management, and so you kill yourself working, you prove yourself, and then you move up.
Right.
That's not the case in our politics.
No. But you're a member of the platform committee at the Democratic Convention.
I am.
So that's going to give you an opportunity.
It will, a platform, and I think that what the Obama campaign and the DNC is doing now, with respect to first time in 40 years, Ronnie, where regular people all across the country, I think there's some 1,100, hearings that have been held. And you know, as you've been a part of the organizing here, 3 here in New York, where regular people can have input in shaping the platform.
People it's announced that there's going to be a hearing, and people come and say what they'd like to see in the
platform.
Say
what they'd like to see in the platform.
And the platform has lost its significance in the last couple of years, but it's basically a very important document, because I've always looked upon it as the agenda for the next 4 years.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. And it's been, I think, you know, we can say on both sides of the aisle that it has been, you know, held in the hands of a few people who come, 160 people that come every 4 years and talk about what the platform should be.
I was on the platform for the McGovern
Were you?
Campaign. Now that was the campaign, you know, as everybody says, he lost so badly because the liberals, lefties got control. But did we have times on that platform?
Well,
that was really...
our first meeting is in, I thought it was going to be in Washington. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. No offense to anyone watching who's from Pittsburgh, but on the 8th and 9th. And there is before the larger platform committee meets, there is a preliminary meeting of a short platform drafting. But I'd like to see some provocative things come out of, you know.
There's been a recent debate, I think, between Obama and McCain on affirmative action. McCain is against it, and Obama said he's for it with certain guidelines or something. Well, you know, that's important.
Having been a director of equal employment opportunity, and it's the language, you know, the affirmative action was never about a quota. Affirmative action was simply those words, to take affirmative measures to ensure and to provide opportunities for minorities and women, and on and on and on. It never said you had to hire anyone. I certainly would not, a certain number who were unqualified. All these things, with all things being comparable, education, capacity, ability, to take affirmative steps to have the workforce look like the country.
Right. It's very important. Now, it
is very important.
You were, for a while, I think, maybe the only paid staff person in the state for Obama, or maybe the second.
There's two of us.
You came in, and you're suddenly the field organizer.
Yeah.
And what did that mean? When did you start? In December?
October, because, you know, he had to qualify for the ballot.
Right.
And so the ballot process, they had to get him on the ballot, the petitioning.
Yeah.
And as you know, this was, I mean, obviously the home state of, you know, Hillary Clinton. And the Democratic establishment necessarily was lockstep behind her, as
it should.
And in
October, I mean, who was Obama?
And in October, who was Obama? And called me crazy. But I couldn't help myself. But what emboldened me...
So let's just go back, is that you have to find people who are going to run as delegates in the primary, right? And then you have to get petitions. How many signatures do they need?
There were 5,000 for him around the state.
To get his name on the ballot.
But in each congressional district, there was another 2,500, I believe, was the threshold.
And how many congressional districts?
29 congressional districts, and it was our strategic thought to run and to field candidates in all 29 congressional districts. That was no easy task, you know, downstate, certainly not upstate, as there are fewer and fewer folks who are Democrats. The establishment was locked out, so all the people that you and I know, they were all, you know, on Hillary slates. And so we just, but the interesting part of this is, as we started to talk and say, well, who's up here and who's up there, we found pockets of people who on their own had started their own organization for Obama, irrespective of a campaign that was non-existent. And this was across the state. And so we sort of corralled these folks, and many of them, Ronnie, had never, this was their first time anything in politics. They didn't even know what a slate was. Like, you want to be on the delegate slate? What's a delegate? What's a slate? Why are we petitioning?
What's the party?
What's the party? Found so many Republicans.
How did you find them?
Just almost word of mouth.
Did you have to? You went upstate.
Mostly, originally made calls, because, you know, being from Poughkeepsie, you know, in the Hudson Valley, well-known families, well-known, so sort of started up there. You know, heard of, well, you know, so-and-so I know is an Obama, so, I mean, it was literally person by person, but there was also people who would sign up online as supporters of Obama. Yeah. That's why the technology
was so important.
And so we obviously reached up to people who said they were interested, wanted to know more. Cold calls to say, in addition to knowing more and interested, would you be willing to run as a delegate? Again, what does that mean? What do I have to do?